All righty. Hi, my name's Kevin Hurd. I've been talking with Connie, and I had gotten in contact with her. I wrote a book last year called "From Randy Johnson to Dallas Braden: No Hitters Beyond the Box Score," and it came out in late September. And these are the two covers of the book. Actually, it's two books, and they're 300 pages each. And volume one has a picture on the cover, and volume two has the catcher. So one of the things I learned from doing this book is I got heavily into wins above replacement and Jaffe WAR system and measuring how many wins a player contributes to the team or how much he's above a replacement player, which would be equivalent of a minor league player. Okay, introduction to who I am. This is the agenda for today. And at the end, between Ed Halicki's 1975 no-hitter and Q&A, there's going to be some stuff. Okay, basically, I'm going to talk about who I am, where I grew up, everything. Inspirations for the book, what I learned from this experience, brief introduction to the structure, content, and format, and show a sample chapter, and that's for volume one, chapter 5, Ed Halicki's 1975 no-hitter against the Mets. And then we actually, these two should be reversed. Ordered by the book should be the second last, and then Q&A will be the last. But and I'm also going to have 3 slides that talk about the 3 Nebraskans who want to be in the Hall of Fame, including the one who's the chapter is named after. I grew up in California. I grew up in what's people call it now Silicon Valley. And I went to high school with Steve Jobs, but we weren't friends. Darn it. I went to California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo. And then I spent 30 years in the Air Force from 1984 to 2014. The inspiration for me to write this book, questions I had about no-hitters. It's kind of a reaction also to an article, Jim Murray, who's a Hall of Fame writer and sports writer for the Los Angeles Times. He wrote an article in 1990 when there was a lot of weird stuff going on with no-hit games. You know, a couple guys got like 6-inning no-hitters because of rain. And Andy Hawkins threw an 8-inning no-hitter. He was the visiting pitcher. And Jim Murray said that those really shouldn't count as no-hitters. And I'd say I'd agree with him. And they did get changed in September of 1991, the definition of a no-hitter. And then what happened to pitchers after no-hitter? The spectrum. Some guys went on to long careers, Hall of Fame. Some guys, that was the last win they got, was throwing a no-hit game. And I interviewed 20 pitchers and catchers and asked them, was it the highlight of their careers? And interestingly enough, only a couple guys admitted it was the highlight of their careers. If they got into a World Series, even if they didn't play in the World Series, that was the highlight of their career. And then David and Goliath situations where, you know, you have like a journeyman pitcher on a kind of an average team throwing a no-hitter against a much better team. That stuff has happened. And I saw like about 25 instances where a team that was 25 games better got no hit. A lot of the times it was by a journeyman team. And there 5 instances, there were teams that were 40 games better and got no hit. The worst team in the league no hit the best team in the league on consecutive days. Okay. And I discovered how important journeymen are. Oops. Journeyman pitchers and catchers are to Major League Baseball. And I got these guys basically into level 1 to 5. Well, level 1 being the best, that's where you have your Hall of Fame pitchers, and level 2 are still very good, but not Hall of Fame. Level 3 are good. Level 4 kind of mediocre. Level 5 are the lowest category. Yeah, but about 30% or 30 to 40% of no-hitters were thrown by level 4s and 5s. And are no-hitters due to luck or skill? Answer, both. Some guys had a career 1 loss of 3 wins and 10 losses, but they threw a no-hitter. And guys like Greg Maddux, Steve Carlton, Roger Clemens, etc., did not throw no-hitters. And I gave you the explanation of 1 to 5, and David and Goliath. Journeyman was a superior opponent. And a couple of the games I'll be talking about a little bit, that is what happened. And the unique book Elements, 23 chapters focus on individual no-hitters that tell the story of the game, the teams and the players involved. 20 interviews with no-hit pitchers and their catchers. And of the 20 interviews, I did 15 of them. I had a couple friends who were helping me with the book, and they did the other 5. There were 141 easy to understand tables, so about 6 tables per chapter per game. And the focused on topics associated with each chapter. Each team's best pitch games, and the teams that have been around since 1900, they had a table themselves, the highest games, and they had really high game scores, because a lot of them, they were pitching 17 innings and allowing 1 run, and that doesn't happen anymore. And the second table would be basically second table would have the best pitch games for pitchers who pitch 10 innings or less. And the teams that have been around since 1960 just have the 10 inning or less feature. And I had 20 interviews. Yeah, 20 interviews. Okay. Team's best pitch games, best pitcher from each decade. And as a Giants fan, I like seeing that Juan Marichal had the highest WAR score of anybody in the 1960s. He was 1 point ahead of Bob Gibson. Best pitchers from each country, like in Ed Halicki's no-hitter in 1975. One of the things we put in the chapter was basically a list of best pitch games for the team, and we had the best pitchers from each country, and we picked Dominican Republic for that game because Juan Marichal was with the Giants, and everybody's a Giants fan, and I think anybody else could agree that Juan Marichal was the best pitcher the Giants ever had. So, and yes, he was from the Dominican Republic, but I think out of all the pitchers from the Dominican Republic or pitchers, Juan Marichal was ranked 2nd, and Pedro Martinez was ranked 1st, and many more unique subjects. And there was 2 big questions I had, one in volume 1 at the beginning of the book, and one in volume 2 near the end of the book, near the end of volume 2. In volume 1, which game was the greatest no-hitter ever pitched? And my brother and I came up with 5 names. One was Max Scherzer. In 2015, threw a no-hitter against the Mets. He also struck out 17 batters, didn't walk anybody. There was one guy that got on base either by an error or a hit batsman. But that is the highest scoring 9-inning no-hitter of all time. The highest scoring 9-inning game of all time is 105 points. It was by Kerry Wood of the Cubs back in the late 90s. And he allowed 1 hit and struck out 20 batters. Hideo Nomo, 1996, the Dodgers against the Rockies. And that game, he got in on the list for that game because that is the only no-hitter that's been thrown at Coors Field and it probably will be the only one until they move to another stadium. And Randy Johnson, 2004 versus the Atlanta Braves. And this was one of these games that had a couple factors in it that made it that much better. Randy Johnson was 40 years old when he threw that. So he's the oldest guy to throw a perfect game. And it was against the Braves, who wound up 45 games better than the Diamondbacks that year. And Harvey Haddock's 1959 Pittsburgh against the Braves. The no-hit classification was removed in 1991. So yeah, that was considered a no-hitter until September of 1991. Commission for statistical accuracy, commissioned by Fay Vincent, the commissioner. And that's where they came up with a new definition of a no-hitter. And then 1965, Sandy Koufax versus the Cubs, September 9th, 1965. And basically what happened with that was the Cubs were not a great team, but they did have 3 Hall of Fame players on the team, and none of them got hits either. Ron Santo, Billy Williams, and Ernie Banks. And volume 2, which no-hitter was the most unlikely no-hitter ever pitched? And it was interesting seeing this because I don't remember Mike Warren's game against Oakland A's against the White Sox. I mean, I'm an A's fan, and I don't remember that game. But what made this especially good was the White Sox were like 25 games better than the A's, and the White Sox didn't bench anybody. It was like 3 games left in the season, and the White Sox were still trying to win games to finish with a better record than Baltimore, so they'd have the home field advantage in the league championship series. But they wound up losing to Baltimore anyway. They did wind up with the best record in the American League, but they wind up losing to Baltimore anyway. But it was incredible. And Mike Warren wound up, he was 5-3 after he won that game. He was a rookie. And then the next year he pitched a little bit and a little bit after that. So he wound up with a 1-loss record career of 9-13. He had a career JAWS score of like negative 0.9. So yeah, it was highly unexpected. And then Ernie Koob and Bob Groom of the St. Louis Browns, 1917. This is a couple years before the Black Sox, but they both of them threw no-hitters consecutive days, not consecutive games, because the second thing was a doubleheader, and it was the second game of the doubleheader. But they threw no-hitters against the White Sox, who wound up winning the pennant that year and were like 42 games better than the Browns. And Groom was a good pitcher. He was all right. He was like a level 4, maybe barely a level 3. And Koob was like a level 4 or 5. But Koob was an interesting case. He wound up with a 1-loss record in the big leagues of 28-31. And he wound up going into the minor leagues. And back then, there was a minor league independent teams where if you got on them, if you wanted to continue playing, you had to pitch for them unless they traded you or sold you to another team. So Koob wound up winning 120 games in the minor leagues, and he probably would have done better in the big leagues if he had more time in the big leagues. Next, Joe Bush. He was a good pitcher. He was a level 2, but he had the distinction of playing for the worst team in the 20th century, the Philadelphia A's, who wound up going 38 wins and 115 losses. They're not the worst team of all time. That was the Cleveland Spiders of 1899, who went 20 and 134, but they did have the worst record in the 1900s. And the Indians were 40 games better. Indians wound up finishing the season 77-77. Don Black with the Cleveland Indians versus the Philadelphia A's. And Don Black I include because he had the worst record of JAWS score of any pitcher who threw a no-hitter. He wound up with a career record of 28-51, not a great ERA, but and his career JAWS score is negative 1.9. So yeah, it was kind of unexpected. And then I love this last guy, Jose Jimenez. For those of you who are old enough, that was the name of a character in the Ed Sullivan Show. But Jose was a good relief pitcher. I'll give him that. he wound up having 100 saves in 4 years with the Rockies. But in 1999, in June and July of 1999, he threw shutouts against the Diamondbacks, and the Diamondbacks were a good team that year. 2 years later, they won the World Series against the Yankees. And he threw a no-hitter, and the opposing pitcher was Randy Johnson. And then the next month, when he threw a shutout against Diamondbacks, Randy Johnson was the opposing pitcher again. And those are the two complete games and the two shutouts that Jose Jimenez had in his career. And player interviews, I'll just briefly go over these. Jim Maloney, he had a 10-inning no-hitter in August 1965 against the Cubs, about 2 to 3 weeks before the Cubs got no-hit by the Dodgers and Koufax. Johnny Edwards was his catcher, and I love talking to Johnny. He's one of the few guys I saw that really got into something different after he left baseball. He was an engineer. He had finished his engineering degree at Ohio State and wanted to be a plant manager after a few years. And I asked him who of his parents really pushed the education on him, and he said his mom. And Juan Nieves threw a no-hitter in 1987 against Baltimore. He was a young pitcher, like 21 at the time. And there was like 5 great plays behind him. And the last out of the game was Robin Yount in center field diving and making a catch. And Paul Molitor made 2 great plays at third base. I think the shortstop made a good play too. But yeah, there was a lot of the players, the catchers and the pitchers. I asked, were there any great plays that you remember? And said, no, don't remember. But that game definitely did have that. And then Bill Schroeder is still an announcer for the Milwaukee Brewers. He's been doing that for like 30 some odd years. Dave Steve, Toronto. He had 3 no-hitters that he lost with 2 outs in the 9th inning. And then he finally got one on this one. Pat Borders, he was his catcher. And Pat Borders is one of 5 guys who played on a World Series championship team and also got a gold medal in 2000 in the Athens Olympics, I believe. And yeah, okay, then Randy Johnson, I mentioned him. Robbie Hammock was his catcher. Let's see. Oh, I love the line that he had when he talked to me was, I asked him, he was one of the few guys that said, yes, that was a highlight of his career, to catch a perfect game. But he said, anything else about the game? And he said, it was the easiest game I ever caught. There was nobody on base. He didn't have to worry about anybody stealing a base. And let's see. Oh, Ed Halicki, the Giants game in August of 1975. That was a game me, my brother, and a friend of ours wound up to see. And I'll cover this a little bit later, a little bit more in depth. Andy Hawkins, the 8-inning no-hitter, and he was still kind of ticked off that he lost the no-hitter designation for that game. Oh, what can you do? But one thing also with Andy Hawkins, George Steinbrenner, playing to the Yankees, George Steinbrenner got him a Land Rover or something, some really expensive good car, and Andy turned it down. He said, "I lost the game. You pay me well enough." So, which is more altruistic than I would have been. And next, Bud Smith for the Cardinals in 2001, September 3rd, 8 days before 9/11. And he said he did not have a sore arm after that, but he was originally going to be pitching like on September 11th or something, but those games got canceled. So he had a fair amount of time off before he pitched his next game. Dallas Braden, perfect game. Oakland against Tampa Bay. And perfect game. His grandmother was there, and his mom had died when he was 10 years old. It was great, heartwarming story. And he was the first guy we interviewed, and he was a great guy to interview. I've got a picture of him. I don't have it with me, but I sent him a copy of the book, and he had a copy of the volume 1 and volume 2, and somebody took a picture of him, and I got the picture. Buck Rogers, catcher for the LA Angels back in '62. His pitcher was Bo Belinsky, who died in 2001, unfortunately. And one of the good quotes was, Bo Belinsky had an average fastball, and that day he had an extraordinary fastball. Don Warner, he was the catcher for Tom Seaver's no-hitter in 1978. Very interesting guy. He lives about 40 miles from me. I tried to get in touch with him a couple times to take a picture, but things didn't work out. But I very much enjoyed talking with him. Mike Heath caught Mike Warren's no-hitter. I was able to talk to him. Terry Steinbach, who caught the no-hitter against the Angels back in 1999, September of 1999. And the Angels had been eliminated from playoff consideration 3 days earlier. So this is one of those games where the B team was playing. It was like Joe Madden was their manager, who had just become manager like 7 days earlier. And he just wanted to see some of the second string guys play. So that was the only game that I saw where you could actually say, yeah, the B team was playing. Eli Whiteside, he caught Jonathan Sanchez's no-hitter in 2009 against the Padres. And the thing that I love stories about baseball is Jonathan Sanchez was a fill-in that night for Randy Johnson. That was Randy Johnson's last year, and he was pitching for the Giants. And Eli was a fill-in for Benji Molina, the catcher, because Benji Molina's wife was in labor. So two guys who were backups came in and did the no-hitter against the Padres. And Miguel Montero, who's a catcher for the Cubs in 2016 when they won the World Series. And Koyi Hill, who caught a no-hitter he caught a no-hitter that was basically a walk-off wild pitch. In the bottom of the ninth, the score was 0-0. He was on the home team, and there was a guy on third base with 2 outs, and the pitcher threw a wild pitch. The guy scored, and they won the game, so they didn't have to go to the top of the 10th. And let's see. Oh, one thing about catchers, the interviewed catchers I love talking to, I asked them how you got into catching. One guy, several of them said, I went out for a little league team, and a couple of the best guys on the team were like pitcher or shortstop, but nobody went to where the catcher was. So just said, and I became the catcher. And another guy, his dad was the coach of the team, and nobody wanted to be the catcher. So his dad took him aside and said, if you play catcher for us, I'll give you $50. So he got bribed. And a couple guys had been like shortstop or third baseman or second baseman all the way through college and the minor leagues. After a couple of years, the front office came to him and said, if you want to make the big team, you got to switch to catcher. They said, okay. And they got into the big leagues. Ed Hulicky's no-hitter, August 24th, 1975. In each of the games, we had like about a page or a page and a half of quotations from like a teammate, the manager, maybe an umpire, and a sports writer. Quotations, yes. Game story. There was a backstory about stuff that was going on. I was living in the Bay Area. I just gotten out of high school. And all the stuff that was going on was the Giants had horrible attendance, but part of the reason was they had no money to pay for players, and they had a bunch of players that didn't want to stay there because it looked like the team was going to move. They just wanted to go somewhere else where there were fans. Daryl Thomas had come to the Giants from, I think, the Padres, and the Giants traded Tito Fuentes, who was a big fan favorite. And Mays was traded in 72, McCovey in 73, Marichal in 73 or 74. So that year in 75, that was the lowest attendance the Giants ever had in a season, 511,000, 6,000 a game. The fan environment, yeah, the radio station the Giants had their games carried on, and the San Francisco Chronicle newspaper, about every day they were saying, well, it looks like they're going to be going to Toronto. And finally, at the last second, a guy from Arizona came in, half the money, and a San Francisco real estate developer got together and wound up keeping the team there. And I put this in there because I thought it was interesting. Carl Walenda, the tightrope walker, he walked from the first base foul pole to the third base foul pole, about 40 feet up. The Giants had artificial turf at the time, so you could not pound stakes in there. So they had big, heavy guys holding it back, and there was wind going on too. And it's like, God, there's no way in hell I would do that. Guy behind me said that, and I said, I agree with you. And my interview with Ed Halicki is one of the best in the book. I'll give you one of the funny stories. His dad was watching the game in New Jersey. That's where he's from. And like about the fifth or sixth inning, they knew he had a no-hitter going, but his dad had to go to the bathroom. But he said, no, superstition, not going to go to the bathroom until he allows a hit or the game's over. And so when Ed Halicki got the last guy out in the ninth inning, he made a beeline for the bathroom and was able to get there in time. I had a table also that had the Giants records, season records from 72 to 81. And out of those 10 years, 7 of them, they had a losing record. And one of the years they had a winning record was the strike year, and it was 56 and 55. The best game scores from 1900 to 2021. And 2 tables. One was from 1900 to the present, and you had Carl Hubble in that, where he pitched like 15 scoreless innings. He had one of the best game scores of all time. And I put this in there. I thought it was fun. Halicki was 6'7", and we looked this up on the internet, and there was like 53 players who've been taller than Ed Halicki in the history of MLB out of 20,000. So it's like 0.25% were taller. And let's see, best pitchers born in the Dominican Republic, included Juan Marichal because he's the best pitcher the Giants ever had. And all chapters included quotations, backstories, tables, and interviews when available. And who your chapter is named after: Wahoo Sam Crawford, born in, amazingly enough, Wahoo, Nebraska. He had an 18-year career, 1899 to 1917, Hall of Fame induction in 1957. He died in 68, so he was able to see that he'd gotten in the Hall of Fame at least. He was in 3 World Series with the Tigers. They lost all of them, unfortunately. And his bats, he's the guy who has hit the most triples of all time, 309. And just as an aside, he played right field, Ty Cobb played center field, and they didn't get along. But Ty Cobb didn't get along with most people.
However, Ty Cobb was the one that was promoting Sam Crawford to get into the Hall of Fame.
I read that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, things, guys change,
Yeah.
So
this is interesting. How did you talk
Robert
to
Alexander?
some?
I didn't include Dazzy Vance, even though some people would consider him from Nebraska, but he was born in Iowa. So,
Well,
born in Elba, Nebraska, 1887, died 1950, about a 19-20-year career. And he was on a winning team in 1926, St. Louis against the Yankees. 1915, he was with the Phillies, and he got swept. The Hall of Fame induction, 1938, and he's the 4th ranked pitcher of all time with all the Jaws scores and everything. 4th ranked of all time.
Well,
how about
Kevin,
Stan Bonson?
Stan Bonson?
Yeah.
Oh, he was good. He wasn't a Hall of Famer.
Right. He's not in the Hall of Fame yet.
Oh yeah, but right. He was from Nebraska, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I didn't include who's the guy that would eat chicken before every game?
Oh yeah, he was
Red
killed.
Sox third baseman,
Oh no.
Wade Boggs.
Oh,
He
Wayne
was
Boggs.
born
Yeah,
in,
oh yeah,
he may
Wade
have been
Boggs.
born on the hospital at Offutt Air Force Base.
Oh,
But
while you were
his
there?
family moved to Florida when he was 11, so I kind of consider him a Floridian.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Do you want to say that?
Well, yeah, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, Kevin, do you think the movie with Ronald Reagan did justice to Grover Cleveland Alexander?
I don't know. Ronald Reagan was in a lot of mediocre films.
Well, I won't argue with that, but I mean, it seemed like
I saw part of it. I can't remember if I saw the whole thing. I
Yeah.
just remember when he couldn't play for a little bit. He was injured, and he was like when traveling circuses talked about his career and stuff, and he said, "Oh yeah, I've won 300 games." And somebody in the crowd said, "How many did you lose?" And then they wound up getting into a fight.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it just seemed like they sure glossed over some things, and they talked about he had epilepsy
Right.
and all that, but they sure you know jumped over it rather quickly, and
Did they even mention that he had epilepsy?
um, well, I think near the end, I think they alluded
Okay.
to it or something.
Okay.
It just, but yeah. Well, I think they wanted to make it a real feel-good kind of movie, which I mean, I think it still could have been, but then that was around 1950, and they weren't, you know, talking about those things in a, you know,
A better light since he wound
positive
up
kind of
dying in
way,
1950. Yeah.
yeah, I guess. But
Okay.
anyway,
Oh, that's cool. Okay. And then
Yeah,
Bob
that's
Gibson, born in Omaha,
yeah, he
senior
was
career.
born.
What's that?
He played in the minors in Omaha for a long time because that's where he
And
got paid.
he
And he
played
didn't
for
get
the
paid.
Harlem Globetrotters for like 3 months,
Yeah, played
and
for
he played at Creighton.
Creighton. Yeah,
Yeah,
he went to Creighton.
both
Darn.
basketball and baseball, I think. Yeah,
I think so too.
13th
Yeah.
ranked pitcher of all time.
yeah. Well, they gave
Really?
bobbleheads
Yeah.
of Gibson out at the Storm.
What's that?
They gave bobbleheads out of Bob Gibson at the Storm Chaser games last year in
Mhm.
Omaha. Minor league
Yeah.
uniform. Yeah.
Okay. Are the Storm Chasers a Kansas City Royal Farm team, or who are they?
Yes. Yeah. I do data for them.
Oh,
Uh,
okay,
a
cool.
stringer
Yeah, I
for
was
them.
stationed at Offutt for 7 years. Went to a couple of their games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, can
That's
you guys hear me? This is Brian Phillips.
13th ranked pitcher of all time. Okay. Anything else on Bob Gibson?
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Brian Phillips.
Oh,
Hi,
okay,
Brian. Yeah,
Hi, how
we
you doing?
can a little bit.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll talk louder. So I live in Omaha, grew up in Omaha. I work at the airport, and not too long before he died, Bob Gibson came through, and I was talking to him, and it was right after I had read a stat that when Ted Simmons made the Hall of Fame, it's the only battery that no
Hall of
hitter
Fame
battery that
battery.
were both in the Hall of Fame.
And I
And
mentioned
he
that
was
in my
amazed
book.
by that. I was too, actually.
When Justin Verlander retires, that's going to be the second Hall of Fame battery. Him and Irod with Detroit back in 2007.
Okay, yeah.
Oh.
And here's where you can get copies. And Connie, you've got a copy of this also.
Yes, I have a copy of what you've shown here, and also his bio, which is very creative in itself.
So
So,
these are the lines, the links to the paperback copies. I don't know if there's any hardback anyway, but they're more expensive
oh,
anyway. So, but the paperback is $19.99 each, and if you want to get volume 1 and 2, so it's about $40 for those. Whereas the hard copy is $25.99 each.
Is this in the material you gave me also?
Yes, this is, yes.
Is it okay? Because I'll copy and paste it and send it around.
Okay.
So that's very interesting.
I have a couple, just comments or questions if we have time, Connie, on
Yeah,
what Kevin talked
please.
about.
Questions?
Oh, yeah, okay, questions. Well, I was just going to say on the Pat Borders, that was the Sydney Olympics in
Oh, Sydney,
2000.
okay.
Yeah, and then because Ben Sheets talked about the night before they won, him and Tommy Lasorda walked around the streets of Sydney, just talking about the game the next day and all that stuff. So that was one of
Oh, Tommy Lasorda is great. I mean, I'm a Giants fan and I don't like him, because of the rivalry and stuff. But when I was talking to Pat, I said, Tom Lasorda is one of the few guys that could pull this off, having a bunch of college guys and minor leaguers and stuff against Cuba, who had all equivalent of major leaguers, and he beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just wondered, what if you had something about no hitters that sort of inspired you to write this, and I could tell, you obviously grew up in San Francisco and Giant fan. And I was there for a conference in San Francisco 2 weeks ago, and I went to a Giant game, and they played the Nats, and they lost the game, but boy, the fans there were great. The place, it was pretty full, and boy, I thought the fans were really good, like on the same vein as say the St. Louis fans. So I was impressed. But and I as far as no hitters, when I was very young, my father took me on May 11th, 1963. It wasn't the perfect game, but I saw Sandy Koufax beat the Giants
Yeah.
in a no hitter at Dodger Stadium.
And the opposing pitcher to
Yeah.
Koufax was Juan Marichal, and Juan Marichal threw a no hitter the next month against the Astros.
Yeah.
You go,
Wow.
oh, gee, that's incredible.
Colt
I've been working on
45s,
this for 40
actually.
years.
You have a fact checker there, Kevin.
Oh, Brian, when I was stationed at Offutt, I lived about 1 mile from where Bob Gibson lived in Bellevue, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I just
never
moved
went to his house and knocked on the door. I thought I might do it, but I didn't.
I just moved out of Bellevue. I wasn't too close to where he lived, but yeah, that's. I'm from South Omaha. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, neat.
cool.
So are you kind of near the old Rothschild, not the Rothschild, but the old stadium for the College World Series?
Rosenblatt, not too far. Yeah. Kind of on the
Yeah.
other
Okay.
side of I mean, I'm on 40 right now. I'm on 49th Street. That's on 13th. So
Okay.
Ah,
it's all
Oh.
part zoo parking lot now, I think.
I thought they did something because they have a zoo there too. And
Yeah, I
they-
think the
they
zoo.
did
The
something.
Oh,
zoo
yeah, the
owns a lot
zoo's
of
next to him.
property down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Well,
go ahead.
okay, just the thing I was trying to do in the book, just stuff that had an interesting backstory. And heck, I know Juan Marichal no hit the Astros, and Matt Cain no hit the perfect game to no the Astros. But both those years, those teams were not very good at all. And Marichal's a Hall of Fame pitch. I wasn't as interested in those games as opposed to a journeyman pitcher, journeyman team against a much better team.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I picked. That was my thought process in putting some of those games out there.
Well, that was good. I was reminded when you talked about that one player that had played a different position and then started to pitch. And was he a third baseman?
Oh, one guy that played a different position and became a pitcher. One was Jim Maloney. He was a shortstop when he was in high school and college. And the
Right.
other was Jim Maloney.
Well,
Oh, and Dave Steve. Dave Steve was a center fielder when he was in college.
I know a third one because that's where Stan Bonson began pitching, is he was playing third base, and
Okay.
people were watching him, and then they said, you should pitch. You need to pitch. For some reason,
And Dave Stewart was a catcher who became a pitcher.
Yeah.
He threw a no-hitter.
He was from Lincoln, was it? Did you say Dick Stewart?
Dave Stewart, yeah.
Oh, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave, yeah. So, you know what, I'd like to just bring us into some a business thing, two things of business, because we haven't been that active, and we're just so distant, so many places. I was hoping that what we could do is have different meeting sponsors come up and maybe have a group in Council Bluffs, in Lincoln, and in Omaha, and they could focus on a topic for one session. We also, because most of us are academically oriented,
Mhm.
I think it's probably better to have like an August, September session to June, and lay off in the summertime, except for a special event, something like that.
Okay.
So with three of us here, that's not going, you know, we're not ones to set the tone. But I do have another speaker for next month. We could, I'm not able to get regular sessions yet, but there is somebody that has collected cartoons over years of,
Oh, baseball cartoons?
yeah, they're real cartoons, and they're baseball. And also he has a history on Bob Serve from Wahoo. And
Oh, Bob Serb?
Bob Serve, yeah, he
Okay.
played for a long time for the Yankees and for Kansas City. Yeah,
Mhm.
Kansas City and the Yankees. And then he coached out at the community college there in
Was he
Wahoo.
like a power hitting outfielder?
Yes, he
Okay.
was. Yeah, now I can't remember what field it was. It was center field or left, but he was the power hitter, and he did quite well.
Mhm.
And he retired back in Wahoo. So I thought it would be interesting to bring him in, and he could show the there were just cartoons and newspaper clippings. He has Bob's whole career from day one, practically, in cartoons and in newspaper clippings. And it's very
I mean,
interesting.
you can check this stuff out on the internet, or if you actually want to get the book, Third Fireside Book of Baseball. It came out like in the 70s, and they had a lot of cartoons in there.
Oh, okay. I guess got carried away with his cartoons rather than the topics and the stories. But he also has like the standings and who is about each
Okay.
game and all. It reminds me a little bit of your book.
Okay.
Because it's so comprehensive. But if somebody else has some suggestions on what we could do, is just start promoting it. Um, the, are you familiar with the different topics um, that we have, that SABR has? Like I've been trying to get it posted on our website, and I will, but I'm thinking if there's anybody that's focusing on one of the SABR research topics, that would be a really good discussion here too. So,
Okay, on one of the research topics. Okay.
right, there are so many of them, about 17. I'll post that as soon as we're finished here. If I didn't have so many issues with this Zoom, I don't know what it was, but I'll post it up there so you can see what they are.
I mean, would you like me to give another talk for the
Um,
future?
I I am not against it. Ken, Brian, how
Oh,
about the two of you? You must have something to share too.
well, I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, well, the University of Nebraska Press, they publish a lot of several, I think,
Exactly.
sports-oriented books and baseball books. So there's authors they can turn us on to. But I mean, there's a lot of other avenues. I mean, we
Okay.
talk to
Right.
people who cover in the press who cover, baseball. I mean, we could come up with a
That'd
list.
be fine.
What's that? I'm
That would
sorry.
be fine.
Yeah.
Well,
There's
You guys get guys
a lot
like
of
that. That's good.
lot of different ways we can go. I mean, and I think I sent you a list of what we did in Oklahoma over the 11 years that I
yeah,
was, we were with our chapter there. So a wide variety of things that we could possibly do. Now, the Zoom stuff didn't really start to happen until after COVID, but
Right.
we used to meet in person. We would, like one time we
right.
did the Mickey Mantle tour. We on the same day, we drove around to about 4 or 5 different places in the northern part of Oklahoma that were related to Mickey Mantle's, boyhood and all of that. So, I mean, that wouldn't obviously be able to be done by Zoom unless we had people there who would be ready to go on Zoom and maybe give us a little walking tour, on.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Well, what I think I'll do is line up people for the
Sure.
next, for the school year. And so if you've got some suggestions, Jack was thinking he has an office or a facility at the Omaha University that he was suggesting using. And I think we could do that too. So, but he's in Europe today and he couldn't be here. So
Okay.
I think we'll focus on something and say once a month. And I think I'm very happy that 2 of us got here, 3 of us are here. Jack would have been had he have not been in wherever it was in Europe. Oh, he was going to be in London. So I think that's the way to go, and just let it happen. And wherever you can contribute. Brian, you want to contribute and be a speaker?
You guys sound like
I don't
very
know
into
that I
this.
have anything to contribute.
Okay. I'm not going to scratch you. You come and listen with us.
Okay,
And
that'll work.
yeah, and we will have some in-house sessions too, but I like the Zoom as well because people can zoom in. No, they don't have to go out somewhere.
Okay.
And Ken, you'll present something. Why don't you choose one of your topics?
Well, I'm okay. I can work some up for give
Yeah.
me like a month, a couple months because right now I'm trying to believe it or not at my advanced age I'm trying to finish up a dissertation, but there was a guy. It was about a year and a half ago, and you probably know him, Connie. I can't think of the man's name right now, but he was sort of on the tail end of a tour. He was going around Nebraska. He he had all this uh, display of all these things from the old days of town ball in Nebraska,
Huh.
Hmm.
and he evidently he people he knew, like his older relatives and so on and so forth, had all been part of this, and he uh, and so he had all sorts of relics and old gloves and bats and old
Oh,
newspaper articles, and it was like a traveling road show of all this stuff. And so when he was in Lincoln, one of my students in one of my reporting classes went and did a story on him. And if we can find out, I can
find his name.
dig up
Yeah.
the story on him, and I bet he probably has all that stuff at his house in his basement, probably on display
Right.
and everything. And I could find out more about him, and I bet that would be really interesting because I
Oh,
mean,
I think so.
from the
Yeah.
back in the day, in those days, and from what about 1910 to 1950 or whatever, the town ball, those individual towns, had their own teams, and that's where a lot of players got discovered and signed to minor league, contracts, and you probably know more about this than we do, Connie, because of your father being a coach and at that time and all that. So that guy could probably I bet he would really like doing that. He was pretty enthusiastic in the interview with our students. So anyway.
Yeah, well, good. Well, thanks for bringing him up. We'll search out his name.
Yeah, I'll look. Give me a day or two, and I'll try to find that story. It's on one of my hard drives, and I'll send you the information and all that, and maybe we can try to get a hold of him. And and I've done, like I did a story years ago on the guy who, until Barry Bonds broke the record, he held the all-time record for most home runs in a season by a professional ball player, Joe Bauman. When I worked at a New Mexico TV station, he hit 72 in 1954.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
For the
New Mexico team?
Roswell Rockets. Yeah.
Okay.
So I did a little story on him. So I mean, I could talk about that, but I mean, but I think this guy would be, for our audience, would be pretty interesting.
And I'm thinking too, bringing someone in from not the chamber, for the American Legion, and discussing theirs, because Nebraska has a really strong American Legion team, and how they build the minor league, or not the minor leagues, but all the different varieties of players that are out there that make it to the major leagues finally.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I grew up in California. We didn't have the American Legion so much as they called them Babe Ruth leagues.
Right. Well, they still have those. So yeah, because they're very competitive.
Yeah.
And that's where they're recruiting. And that's something that now, with this NIL stuff going on, where people are going to be recruiting, where it's really going to be a toss. It would be kind of interesting to hear about that.
Well, the travel leagues, I mean, where you got these 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds.
Oh, yeah.
Mom and dad are willing to spend the money and cart them around all summer long and even into the fall and so forth. I mean, where Little League isn't what Little League used to be, because a lot of those players, they may only show up for when it's all-star tournament time, because they're out playing against teams from other cities, and then they show up. I don't know. It's to me, a lot of it just isn't fair, and then also, are kids really getting the full experience as a kid? Like some places, they don't allow kids to play multiple sports, and it depends on where you live and how the coaches and all them handle it. But I think that's something to be talked about.
Right. That is crazy. That's certainly not Bob Feller's kind of baseball. He was out in the farm, and he says, that's what made me what I was.
Yeah.
And you just don't have that today.
Couple things. Ken and Brian, do you guys know anybody who has a baseball podcast?
I don't know.
Okay.
No.
Well, I mean, at SABR conventions and in meetings and so forth, I've met people who have them, but I mean, I wouldn't say like they're personal friends of mine or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, and I mean, there's a lot of them out there you can find. I mean, my biggest, we talk about this at, I work at the journalism and mass comm college at UNL, and their podcasts are still a little bit of a mystery, because you got to hunt to find out where podcasts are. There's no
it's ridiculous.
true directory for podcast. You got to do a Google search, and and then Apple has their list, Spotify has their, it's crazy.
Instagram,
yeah. So, but Guy, there seems to be a lot of people out there doing those, and then on YouTube, there's guys who just show up and they decide, I want to talk about the baseball cards of the stars I liked in 1959, and then they just, you know what you've probably
Yeah.
seen some of those, and and what makes this guy an expert all of a sudden? But well, that's nice that he loved these guys and wants to talk about them. He's just a super fan, just like a lot of us who attend SABR conventions are,
Mhm.
probably closer to being super fans than being able to call us baseball historians. So
But Kevin, you could put together your own podcast.
yeah, yeah,
Those are like the people I know that podcast just do it themselves. Put a headset on, a mic in front of them and tape and talk. And and
Okay.
then you just run it and it will draw an audience at some point, or it's
Okay.
crazy because there are so many of them out there.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how
Oh,
people keep on top of all the
yeah.
this stuff.
Ken, if I went to the Oklahoma chapter, would they be cool with me talking about my book?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
If you send me an email. I mean, my email should be right, Connie. It's on in the directory anyway, the SABR directory, and
Right.
I'll send you Jesse. Um, can't think of his last name right now. He's the president of the chapter right now, and he'll probably contact you fairly quickly, and probably be more than happy to get you on their list
Oh,
of
Jesse Asbury. Okay.
yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Okay.
And he was in Irving, Texas, when we were at the National in June. But do you live in Nebraska, Kevin?
No, I live in Dallas Fort Worth area.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say the podcast room that we use at UNL in our building is like uh, it takes about 4 seconds. It's right by my office. You just step right out of it, and you're there in the podcast room. The students are hanging out off and on throughout the day, right outside the podcast room, and they so our students are building. They must be doing about 50 to 60 podcasts, every semester ongoing. So, I mean, we have people from around campus come in and use that room, like,
Okay.
VPs and whatever to, do their little podcasts, So it's, yeah, you just need to find some place that has good audio equipment that can do some good audio recording. You may have friends. You may not even know that some of your friends maybe have invested in some good sound equipment or whatever, and they do that kind of thing right out of their own home.
Okay.
You just ask around. You may be able to do that. You don't want to try to doing it over the phone.
No.
No,
It just doesn't work that well. You want to be there where the quality is going to be, much better. So, but yeah, I mean, and every time out you do it, you're going to get better.
Okay.
I'm in the Washington DC area, and there are a couple of podcasters that really do well. And over the years, you've seen how they've improved. And so you just start out, you just start it, and you'll get into it and
Okay.
start improving. This is what I'll send you a link to one of them that I listen to quite a bit.
Okay.
He's progressed a lot. So
If you got a partner, you find a partner out there that you work well with that
Mhm.
like if you want to, like, you could play the expert and they could play more like the host or vice versa.
Sure.
That may be a good way to get started. That's how you see a lot of people do it. So,
Mhm.
things to think.
Also, if you are talking at other groups, since you're near Houston, you've probably been to their Saber group.
I'm going to give this talk about the book, probably
Yeah.
like in November, because I talked with Joe
Okay, yeah.
chief of
Because
the
they're
group.
very active there, and that would be a good, actually, spring training would be a good time if you could line yourself up with a lot of spring training in Texas and Florida, Arizona.
Okay, yeah,
And I'll pass your word around in Florida because there are
okay,
quite
that'd be great.
people there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Okay,
think that's what it takes is just word of mouth too. I'd like to see Sam Crawford, the Sam Crawford book get around too. He wrote a very good book. Have you read it, Brian? Are you still with us?
mhm.
Oh, maybe,
Brian, you there?
yeah.
I'm here. Sorry, I'm feeding my cats right now.
Oh,
So I lost you for a second there, but yeah, I'm here.
you're here. I just wondered if you had read the Sam Crawford book that was
I
written.
haven't yet. No.
Yeah, it's very,
Right now,
very
I'm
good.
reading the. I think it's a 2000 version of the Bill James abstract. I'd never actually sat down and read it before. That's what I
Oh,
Oh, that's a
that's
great
what I've
book.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite books.
Yeah,
oh, well, you caught a good one. Well,
right. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So
yeah, do a book report on that.
there you go.
No, I think that would be a great podcast or for a meeting, just, have a topic on something, then for half the meeting, then the other half of the meeting, we just have a bold session about that very book.
Right.
I mean, the thing that I liked most about the book was when he ranked the top 100 players in each position, and he had Dave Kingman as number 98 for left fielders, simply because he hit over 400 home runs.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
yeah, yeah.
He
Well,
hit
and
400.
what was he right on? And now, after how many years have gone by, where and he even has written about what he would have done differently and all that. It's
Sure.
yeah.
I'll have to get that one too.
Mhm.
I just finished the volume, well, Bob Feller and Connie Mack.
Oh, okay.
Just- that was heavy.
Alrighty. Well,
So much
this
reading.
is great. I had a blast talking to you guys.
Well, I enjoyed hearing it.
Right.
I hope that Brian and Ken did. And sorry we didn't have more people, but we will wasn't intended for everybody. So we'll have you come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So,
do have one little story about Bob Feller, since you brought him up. Right before the war, my grandma cleaned houses in Cleveland. And one of the houses she cleaned was like 2 doors down from Feller. But he hired her several times to cater and prepare stuff when he'd had parties over there. So she was a huge Bob Feller fan. She loved him. And the fact he joined the Navy on December 8th, too, that helped too. But
No.
oh, was that her birthday?
day after Pearl
Okay,
Harbor.
after Pearl Harbor.
Oh,
Yeah, the
day
day
after,
after.
that's right, sorry
Yeah.
about that. That's funny because he was in the Navy and my dad was in the Navy at the same time, and Bob was someone my father really greatly admired. And he carried this passage from Bob in his cap as he was invading the beaches of Normandy.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was very funny.
Mhm.
Bob Feller's a good story.
He is, yeah.
He is, so,
And you brought up Bob Serve earlier.
yes.
What I always remember about him is he was in the starting lineup for the first ever game of the Los Angeles Angels as a major league team, but
Oh,
then only like less than a month later he was traded back to the Yankees.
yeah, he had an interesting story. He played with his jaws wired
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
That was, I
And
used to babysit for him even too, not for him, but for his children.
yeah.
And I think that there were 4 of them when I was sitting, and it grew up to 6 or 9, something like that.
And in that movie, Asterisk 61, his character played a pretty big role in it, when they
Oh,
were roommates, Maris and Mantle and him were
right.
roommates, and he was like the sort of the father figure because he was especially for Mickey, he was older uh,
Yeah.
than those two. because,
Yeah.
he was in the Navy before he went to college. And
Right.
yeah. So anyway.
I mean, they were all men that came back and played at that
Yeah,
point.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's funny.
but they skipped, but what annoyed me about the movie is they skipped over his whole angel, short angel experience, because they show opening day of that season, he's in the Yankee outfield. But that wasn't in reality, that wasn't the case.
That wasn't it.
Otherwise, I liked the movie. Anyway, I could keep talking into the night, but
Yeah, I think we all could.
Yeah.
But
probably need to go.
Thank you, Kevin, for sharing. That was very
Love
good.
doing it.
And Brian, it was good having you. Ken,
Okay.
as always, we'll have more. And
Yeah.
Jack will get a report from us. We'll keep talking. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Don't forget to look up the resources that we have, that I post, because I think we can get some good input from them.
Okay.
Talk about more of it.
And you got Jesse's information, right, Kevin? You don't need me to send that to you?
No, I got it. I mean, I don't
Okay.
have a phone number, but this is just the SABR list for all the.
Okay. Well, I'll look and see if I have his phone number still.
Okay.
Oh, it might be it would be there if he's in a chapter. Go to the chapter that he's in, and you should
Well, a
be.
lot of the chapters don't have the phone numbers.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You click
Well,
on the name and they'll have the email address.
I probably have it. I'll
Okay.
look
Okay.
for it. Okay.
Right. Thanks, Ken.
Night.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Night. I'm closing.